Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the notion of retiring, quote, on the margins in Thailand. And the reason I got to thinking about this was reading a recent article from the Thai Examiner, that's thaiexaminer.com. Article is titled, Wealthy Foreigners to Own Small Land Holdings Associated with Homes Here Agreed in Principle. As we've discussed in other videos, yeah, in principle, I think that principle probably ain't going to hold up ultimately, but we've discussed that in other videos. Not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video was an excerpt in the article. I urge folks who are watching this to read it in detail. A lot of insight in there, but quoting directly, new regulations do not yet impact the more popular non-immigrant O visas for marriage and retirement. And by these new regulations, we're talking about a lot of the regulations associated with a bunch of the insurance requirements or so-called self-insurance requirements, etc. But quoting directly, these new arrangements do not impact current requirements for non-immigrant O visas or extensions either for marriage or retirement visas for now, but may signal future intentions by the government, which have also been regularly aired publicly by senior officials. Thailand is moving up market and looking for wealthy foreigners to come to live and work in the kingdom. In this respect, while efforts are being made to make investing in the kingdom by foreigners seeking to live in Thailand easier and provide flexibility to those with assets and financial banking, the bar may rise in the future for those foreigners living on the margins. And I would say, first of all, we got to define margins, but if it's just, a lower income expat, a lower income retiree, or somebody that, $25,000 is significant money, yeah, I still do think that those retirees are going to be a part of the expat ecosystem here in Thailand. I've done another video contemporaneously with this one discussing the future of the O retirement visa, just briefly. I don't think there's a great deal to be worried about here. I know there is some concern out there in the retired expat community that there's not, they may one day get rid of the O retirement visa or something of this nature, or add all these requirements onto that. I don't think that's going to happen. And, for a variety of different reasons, but most notably, Thai immigration officers and Thai policymakers are not wholly without sympathy. For example, how does one who ages out, so to speak, from insurance requirements within Thailand maintain their status? If somebody comes over here, in good faith and retires in Thailand in their 70s and, they get up into their upper 80s or 90s and, they can't get insurance anymore. Well, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to have an O retirement visa that doesn't require insurance. So, I think for the most part, it's probably not something to be overly concerned about. But yes, we did see a number of folks who were for their time, quote unquote, on the margins, fall by the wayside in the retiree community here in Thailand, when they got rid of the income affidavits that were available through, for example, the American or the British or the Australian embassies. And when those income affidavits were no longer issued, we stopped seeing a large, segment of the retiree population. Now, here's the question, though. Being on the margins is a very different thing from lying. So, in a lot of the cases, frankly, of folks that were using income affidavits, it begged the question, did those people ever have the financial resources they claimed in those income affidavits to begin with? And I would say, by evidence, by the fact that they're no longer here in many cases, it appears no, they didn't have those assets, that could meet those financial requirements. So again, big difference between sort of not being the richest retiree and being somebody who's going to get kicked out effectively out of the country. I just don't think that's going to happen to folks as of now. I think the kind of demography we're looking at with respect to retirees, although we'd certainly want the numbers higher, as we've discussed in other videos, I do think the demography overall is probably what it's going to be into the relatively foreseeable future.